There was in a certain city a pastor who went home to be with the Lord. Very small church. He had a son, and there were a number of people who wanted to pastor that church. The bishop took the position that in that denomination that the bishops chose pastors. So the bishop went to the church with a young man fresh out of seminary whom he thought would make a good pastor for the church. People had their minds made up that they wanted to go another way.
They had a vote the night before, 40-10, that they were not going to hear anything the bishop had to say. The bishop brought me to the church that Sunday morning, preached a little message, placed his hand on my shoulder and said, I'm going to assign this young man as pastor of this church. 7 men stood and said, Bishop, we don't want to hear it. The bishop said, you 7 men sit down. They would not sit down. So the bishop said, everybody stand. He prayed the benediction, tapped me on the shoulder and said, it's yours, my boy, and walked out the side door. I don't know why I didn't walk out of that side door with him. But somehow I stayed there. And one of the men allowed me to step to the podium. And I began to speak and share the vision that the Lord had given me. I asked the congregation to give me a chance, and if it did not work out, I'd be the first one to decide to leave. The overwhelming majority of the people raised their hands in support. There was a minority, of course, who were determined to fight to the finish. A few days later, a backslidden preacher who had just gotten out of jail walked in the door, down the center aisle, sat in the center seat on the platform, and tried to take over the church. Individuals tried to file lawsuits personally claiming the property of the church. There were 3 years of continual litigation. Had to have an armed bodyguard for my personal protection day and night. People would turn the lights out, disrupt our meetings and services with screams and shouts. One even attempted to start a fight and said, step outside. And I called the deacons and said, deacons, y'all better get down here quick before I hurt somebody. But in the midst of all that confusion, the church doubled the first year. Then it doubled the second year. Then it doubled the third year.
The church started growing. He had a vision to move into another location. And it ended up that young man, as he matured, built the strongest and greatest membership in the whole of that denomination. That young man's name was Charles Blake. And West Angeles Church of God in Christ has now become a world-renowned church. And he is one of the great leaders of Christendom in this world.
God let me go through the roughest time of my life to teach me that if he brought me through that, he can bring me through anything. Why don't you clap your hands and give praise to God?